We're going to find lateral and total surface area, and I'm going to show you how to do it in 3 steps. Step 1, choose your formula. You don't have to memorize it. You have a star formula sheet. We just have to know how to pick the right formula. Alright, are we looking for a prism or a cylinder? From the diagram, we see circular bases. That tells us cylinder. Also, it says it right there in the problem, cylinder. We're halfway done. Do we want lateral area or do we want total area? Alright, it says in the problem total surface area, so we have our formula. Step 2. We need to find the values of our variables. What's a variable? Well, it's like a letter, okay? What letters do we have to find? We have R and we have H. What does R represent? R is the radius. So if we look at our circular bases, the radius is right here. In this case, it's 2. But be careful. Sometimes the problem gives you the diameter. And if you have a diameter, what do you have to do to get the radius? You always take half. Okay, so that didn't happen this time, but watch out for it. H. What does H represent? H is the height. And it's not just how tall it is, it's the distance between the bases. So 5. Step 3, plug it in. We're going to plug the numbers we found into our formula. So surface area is, according to this, 2 pi, and then times r, so we're going to put times 2, times h, so we're going to put times 5, and then plus 2 pi, r squared, so 2 squared. Okay, now we're going to plug the whole thing into our calculator. Yours might look a little different, but we're just going to plug the whole thing in, and I got 87.9, and it keeps going. Alright, I'm going to round it. So I'm going to get about, let's see, 88. Our units are inches. I'm going to put inches squared because it's area. That's it, question 2. So different question, but the same steps. The first step, choose our formula. Do we need a prism? Do we have a prism or do we have a cylinder? I don't see circular bases, so that's a prism. Also, it says right here, we're looking for the surface area of a prism. It says the lateral surface area, so that's the second part. That's our formula, P times H. Step 2, find the values of our variables. Alright, the letters in our formula are P and H. But there's something different about this one. It's capital. And if one of your variables is capital, that means you have to do more work. So H is lowercase, you can just find it in the diagram. But P is capital, so we have to do more work. What does P represent? P is the perimeter. The perimeter of what? The perimeter of the base. So now we have to decide what is the base. Alright, this is a triangular prism. You could tell that why it's a triangular prism, we got triangles. It turns out that those are the bases. These two are the same and they're parallel to each other, so those are our bases. So we need to find the perimeter, P for perimeter, the perimeter of this base. How do you find perimeter? You have to add up all the sides. So we got 6 plus 8 plus 7. Where did I get 7? Ah, okay, so it wasn't labeled down there, but this is the same length. This 7 and that 7, it's the same. Add them all up and we get 21. What about H? What does H represent? H is the height. It's the only number we haven't used, so 8.5. Alright, step 3, plug it in. We have our formula, and we found the values of our variables. Time just to put it together. Our surface area is P times H, which is about 178.5. Our unit is meters, so meters squared. Done. Alright, this is our last example. Let's see if you can remember, what's the first step going to be? It's choosing the formula. Is this a prism or is this a cylinder? I don't see any circles, so it has to be a prism. Also, it says rectangular prism. Is this question asking us for lateral or total surface area? All right, it says total in the problem, so we have our formula. Step 2, find the values of the variables. P, H, and now we have B. All right, what does P stand for again? It's perimeter. Perimeter of what? Perimeter of the base. So rectangular prisms can be kind of tricky with this. With a triangular prism, you know the base is the triangle. With a circular cylinder, you know the circles are the base. But with a rectangular prism, you could pick any pair of parallel rectangles. So that means you got choices. I'm going to choose this rectangle right here to be my base. And that means the one in the back, the one you can't see in the diagram, that's the other base. So this is going to be my base, and P represents the perimeter of that base. So I have to add up all the sides. We have 3, 5. What's this length here? It's also 3, and that length, also 5. Add them all up. My perimeter is 16. All right, what about the height? So H is the height, is a little letter, so we should be able to find it in our diagram. 6.2 is the only thing we haven't used, and that is the height. But you might say, that doesn't look like a height. Well, remember, height is the distance between bases, so that's definitely our height. Last thing, capital B. What does that stand for? Well, it's not perimeter. This time, it's area. Area of our base. We decided that this rectangle is our base, so we need to find the area. How do you find area of a rectangle? Length times width. All right, that means we need to multiply our length times width, so we get 5 times 3, which is 15. All right, so this time step 2 took a little bit more work because we had to find capital B and we had to find capital P. But it's time for our last step. What's the last step? Plug it in. All right, we have a formula. We have the values of our variables. Let's put them together. Surface area is P times H, and it says plus 2 times B. Okay, so our final answer is about 129 inches squared. So that's it. We've solved 3 different problems, and every time we use the same 3 steps. So let's review what those are. What was step 1? Choose your formula. What was step 2? Find the values of your variables, and step 3, plug it into the formula. All right, so good luck using these steps on any problem you get.